What's up guys, my name is Ace, and with the launch of Season 3 in Modern Warfare 3, we saw the addition of a nice quality of life feature that you may or may not have noticed, and this is, after the game ends when it shows the scoreboard, sometimes you'll see a little option to stay in the lobby. And if you select that, it'll work just like the good old days of Call of Duty, where instead of immediately rematch making and finding a different match, it will just put you straight into a lobby where you can vote for maps, and anybody else that selects that option, they will stay in that same lobby with you. Now with this, unfortunately, it's not popping up every single game. It only pops up sometimes. And a few days ago on stream, I decided to record the ending of all of my games that I streamed. There were a total of 9 games, to see how often this would pop up and to also see if I could figure out any trends as to why it would pop up in some games but not others. And here's what I ended up with my 9 games. As we can see here, out of the 9 games that I played on stream, 5 of them gave me the option to stay in the lobby after the game ended. Whereas for the other 4, no option existed. So it seems to be at least a roughly 50% chance that this is going to be popping up, at least for me. Who knows, this may vary on a player-to-player basis. And initially, I suspected this option would only pop up as long as the game wasn't a complete blowout. And if the score was reasonably close throughout a match, then you would get the option to stay in the lobby and have a rematch. Whereas if it were a blowout and it was completely unbalanced, then it wouldn't give you that option and it would force the lobby to break up. So that was my initial theory, but going through these scoreboards, there were some games here that were quite close and we didn't get an option for a rematch. And then there were other games where it was a total blowout and I still got the option to stay in the lobby. So at least as far as I can tell, I don't believe that initial theory I had is true. Also, I was curious to know if maybe it only works for individual modes and not quick play or vice versa. But I did a mix of game modes here where some of these games I found through the quick play filters, and then other games I found just playing the 24/7 playlists, which are separate from quick play. And in both cases, sometimes I had the option to stay in the lobby, other times I didn't. So at least at this point, unfortunately, I have no idea what it is exactly that determines whether or not you're going to see that option to stay in the lobby at the end of the game. All I know is sometimes it's there and sometimes it isn't. In either case, I did want to share my thoughts on this system and the fact that they've added this quality of life feature. And the first thing I want to compare this to is last year with Modern Warfare 2, fairly late in the life cycle, they brought in an option that allowed you to play again with team. And again, you select this when that final scoreboard is showing after a game. And I made a video talking about that last year. I found that system to be extremely flawed. And the primary reason for that is it only allowed you to play with the same teammates. It wouldn't allow you to vote essentially for a rematch. And that's a huge part of the reason that many of us want persistent lobbies back that don't break up after every game, like we used to have in Call of Duty, where you could stick with the same lobby for hours on end, playing with and against the same people over and over again, having some great banter, maybe even making some friends in the process. And that play again with team option in Modern Warfare 2 just didn't really cut it because it didn't allow for any sort of rematch to take place. Additionally, with that system in Modern Warfare 2, a big problem I had with it is it doubled the amount of time that you had to sit there just staring at a scoreboard, unable to do anything. And that was obviously frustrating. That went from 9 seconds up to about 19 seconds of just sitting there. Whereas I did test this in Modern Warfare 3, and this doesn't add any additional time when this stay in lobby option appears. You will only be in that screen for 10 seconds, regardless of whether or not that option exists. So that's great to see. And then another thing I wanted to point out that was an issue with that Modern Warfare 2 system is even if you did vote to play with the same team again, and other people did as well, it still wouldn't put you directly into a lobby. It would rematch make, and you would have to find another game. And that totally different game could be on a totally different data center. In some fairly rare cases as well, it could throw you into a game mid-match. Usually though, if you finished a match out, you won't end up into a match in progress in your next game. But it did happen sometimes at least. Whereas with this new system with Modern Warfare 3, I think this was a really big improvement over the play again with team option, because now, not only do you just play again with your team, you're just sticking with the lobby and the teams can be reshuffled. So that's excellent. There is that chance for rematches or mixing it up and sometimes playing with the same people, sometimes playing against the same people. Another thing I like about this is it puts you immediately into a lobby where you can vote for maps, and there's a consistent amount of time before the next match will start. Additionally, based on my limited experience with this so far, it seems to stick to the same data center when you do this. I don't know if this is a guarantee, but every time I have monitored this while using this stay in lobby feature, it's always put me on the same data center for the next match. And that's excellent to see for consistency. If you've got a consistent connection playing with and against certain people on the same data center, it should feel quite consistent on a match-to-match basis as long as it stays on that same data center. So overall, I do think this is a nice step up from last year. However, I still would like to see them take this further. I mean, for me, ideally, I would just love to have persistent lobbies back where if you want to leave, you can leave, but otherwise you just stay in by default, like we always used to have in Call of Duty. That's the best system by far, in my opinion, and that's something I've been pushing for since the launch of Modern Warfare 2019. I still think this is one of the biggest problems with modern Call of Duty, and the feeling of matchmaking as well, the crazy swings from game to game. I think a lot of that would disappear if we just had automatically persisting lobbies that gave the player the choice to leave or the choice to stay. Because with forced disbanding lobbies, there is no player choice. It disbands you every time, even if you wanted to stay. However, at least with this new stay in lobby feature, you're going to have the chance to stay in the same lobby if you'd like. But I think even with this, there's room for improvement without bringing back just automatic persistent lobbies, which again, that would be my preference. I'm just not going to expect that to happen. Instead, I do have some feedback I wanted to share to improve this system. First off, I would love to have some clarity as to why this shows up sometimes but not other times. Is it totally randomized, or are there some other factors at play here? And personally, I would really like to see that option just appear every single game. Because again, at least there's some player choice there, because it's kind of frustrating having that choice taken away from you entirely. And then on top of this, there's one other little way that I would love to see this new feature improve, and this would be a new setting that you could turn on, and once you turn that on, it will always automatically opt in to stay in the lobby. Every time that option appears to stay in the lobby, it will do it automatically for you. Because as it is right now, if you aren't paying attention or you walk away from your controller because the game is over and you just want to grab a drink or something and come back, it's unfortunate that you miss out on that ability to opt in, even if you wanted to opt in to staying into the next lobby. And for me, if there were a setting that I could toggle on where it always opts in automatically, I would turn that on immediately, and I'm sure many other players that really want disbanding lobbies to go away, they would turn this option on immediately as well, and then we would see more people interacting with this system. I do think part of the reason that at this point not many people interact with it is many people haven't even noticed this option yet, because traditionally, once the scoreboard pops up, you can't really do anything while that scoreboard's there, so you're not really looking for an option to be turning on or off. So as much as I definitely prefer what they're doing this year, and I think they're way more on the right track than they were last year with this new feature, I still think there's room for improvement here, and I would love to have that setting to be able to always opt in automatically anytime this option appears. Even if I didn't want to opt in, I can always back out, and that was the beauty of the old system, is the player had full control over their experience throughout a gaming session. And that control has been taken away from us, and it seems like they're slowly trying to find ways to reintroduce that. I think the logical next step here, if we want to take this system further, is give us an always opt-in option. I think that would also potentially give an indication of just how many people are interested in lobbies sticking together after they end, so that you can have those rematches and stick with the same people game after game after game. Now, of course, these are just my opinions on this whole situation, and I'd love to hear what you guys think about this new stay in lobby option in those comments down below. Do you guys like the fact that they've added this system and it's not just a play again with team option? Do you also have any other theories as to why it pops up sometimes but not other times in game? And then finally, if we had a setting in game that allowed us to always opt in by default, would you turn that setting on or not? Just let me know all of those thoughts down below. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated. And don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.